I welcome everyone to the Formula Fan TV preview of the F1 season. We've done this for a few years, Sam. So welcome back to existing viewers. Hello to new viewers. We're going to go through all the drivers, all the teams, and let you know where we think they're at for the start of the season. Just by way of introduction, I'm obviously one of the biggest sim racers in the world. And Sam is a professional karter that has raced in your time against a lot of drivers who've made it to the highest forms of
motorsport.
motorsport. Speaking of a driver who's made it to high form motorsport, we're going to start with Fernando Alonso. We talked a couple of years ago when he was at Alpine, and I said that I think he's going to throw toys out the pram. I think he can't last that long in a team. He then moved to Aston Martin. For me, he started the season so badly last year. Remember, he didn't score points and everything. I thought he was going to throw toys out the pram there. It's just a moment where toys are thrown out of the Aston Martin.
But in a way, already he's already thrown his toys out the pram by like revving the nuts off that Honda motor, and blowing it up, and then ending their testing early because they had no spares.
Yeah,
he must have known they had no spares. When he blew it up on Thursday, that was it done. They had to go home. They couldn't sit in for the Friday to do any chassis testing or aero testing.
I'm a bit surprised. I might not make any friends here. I'm a bit surprised there isn't more discussion about how bad things are for Aston Martin. Like, this is basically unprecedented to have a manufacturer of their prestige and even performance to be in this big trouble. And part of me thinks it's because we live in this age of like influencers and sponsorship, and everyone's still like, oh, look at my Aston Martin cap that I got and everything. And like, actually, there's going to be a rude awakening for any Aston Martin fans. I think at Melbourne, rumors saying that they know they're not going to complete the race and everything. So
rumors saying they're going to park up after 2 laps to do the bare minimum of the contractual obligations, but it's not looking good for them at all. There's a lot of stuff which doesn't make sense. Obviously, the Honda, people say, "Oh, Honda, they've won for the last so many years." It's not the same Honda.
No,
I know. Yes, it has the Honda badge on it, but when Honda originally decided to cut out of Formula 1, Red Bull took over a load of their
and they only kind of half came back. So
so this is a whole fresh team.
So Fernando Alonso prediction: I don't think he's going to last the end of the season. Also, I don't think Adrian Newey is going to last the end of the season. We did a whole thing. Make sure you go watch it on Formula Fan TV where we did the whole Red Bull breakup thing and Adrian Newey, and that was a big thing. I think there's too much of him in this project. I don't think he culturally can be the person to turn things around.
So do you think Adrian Newey's going to go before Fernando does?
I think, if you want them more honest thoughts, I think Lawrence Stroll's going to throw toys out the pram. Aston Martin, the car company, is a much bigger story than Aston Martin, the F1 team, in terms of employment in Britain and everything. And I think what's going to happen is Lawrence Stroll is going to just move on from the whole thing. And almost like the British government or someone's going to have to step in for Aston Martin UK because it's such an important employer, etc. And actually people will look back at all this mismanagement in the Formula 1 team and say, well, obviously it was going to end in tears with Lawrence Stroll buying the team, so Lawrence Stroll had a drive.
So what you're saying is we're going to have a year of 11 teams and then we go back down to 10 teams again.
I think everyone has their head in the sand about how bad things are at Aston Martin. Let's move things on to Lance Stroll. I think Lance Stroll could be a catalyst here because if Fernando Alonso throws toys out the pram and they're parking up, it won't expose a gulf in difference between Lance and Fernando. However, if Fernando actually earnestly goes for it, which again, it shows you that I don't think he will, given past, what he's done in the past, say against Lewis at McLaren and things he's done. I don't think he'll expose Lance. But if Lance were to be exposed in this car, you'd have to think about changing the driver, and there'd be pressure, and then the whole Aston Martin thing falls apart.
I mean, I said it last year, possibly the year before as well, but when he had that injury and he hurt his hand, he had to sell races, that was the perfect time for Lance to stop Formula 1, move over to a Valkyrie project.
Get Felipe, get Drugovich in.
Get someone else in who's a lot more interested. Like, you hear all the rumours of Lance had a big crash in the qualifying. He just walks off, doesn't talk to anyone, doesn't help team morale or anything like that. So it's like he's there. He enjoys racing 90% of the time, but it feels like the other 10%. The other 10% of the time is actually getting higher and higher. It's going to be 20%.
It doesn't feel like he's very magnanimous about being born into crazy wealth and everything, which is not his fault or even a problem. Like, this is how motorsport works, Formula 1 works. I don't begrudge him at all for that, but it does grate a bit if you seem like you don't really enjoy the circus and everything.
Yeah.
When you look at people like Charles Leclerc or Carlos Sainz, etc., they get involved in
They look
bringing
like
in
they're
new
having a good
fans to the
time.
sport. Yeah, exactly.
Interacting with the fans as well.
Yeah, so and that might go both ways because maybe Lance gets a lot of abuse from the fans and therefore it's like
Yeah,
an
that's true.
unvirtuous circuit. But yeah, I don't have high hopes for Lance Stroll this season. We're going to go to Alpine now. We have spoken about Alpine for years on this channel, often memeing them. Well, the Enstone, the engine is no more basically.
Yeah.
So
Now
Mercedes engine. We'll get to compression ratio. Don't worry about that. Are they still a basket case team? Is kind of having Flavio Briatore like one of the last emperors of Rome? It's kind of like it's going to just all go up in flames.
I mean, you saw what happened with Duran last year. You saw how he got kicked out and Colapinto got brought in. I think Alpine are going to carry on doing French things and just somehow mucking it up, even with a good motor. But I will say on behalf of the drivers, and it's my personal opinion, I generally believe this is the worst driving pair on the grid.
You've never rated Gasly that much.
Never rated Gasly that much. Colapinto, I was impressed with when he stood in for the last 3 or 4 races for Williams. But last year, if last year's anything go by, him and Gasly are going to be on par with each other. And I've never rated Gasly.
Okay, so I mean, I do rate Gasly. We got some stats here. 177 Grand Prix. He's an experienced driver. Like there's drivers back. There's probably more races than Nigel Mansell he's done in Formula One. Like it's pretty crazy. And that win he got at Monza in the Toro Rosso a while ago. But I think things could get pretty ugly for Alpine. I don't understand how Franco Colapinto is still in Formula One.
Yeah,
I don't know what compromat he has on Flavio Briatore.
Massive funding.
But it just doesn't feel right for Alpine to be in a stale position because they have a lot of junior drivers. They have big presence in junior formulas and even in WEC. They're pulling out of WEC with the hypercar. But I've seen them as they were getting ready for hypercar. They were funding LMP2s and stuff like that. It just feels like a great retreat. And again, you talked about going from 11 teams back to 10. We'll see what happens there. The more distressed they become, the more our Christian Horner and the consortium could potentially step in. And do something.
And I mean, the thing which really helps them now is they've got the Mercedes engine deal.
Yeah.
So if a team wanted to buy in, they're not having to flog around with a Renault or anything like that.
Audi next. Okay. So not an entirely new team because taking Sauber, but I think quite new engine and gone with Hulkenberg, who probably is one of the best drivers you could have, I think, in that team.
He's a very steady driver.
Yeah.
I mean, fast, don't get me wrong.
And he's going to be able, hopefully, for them to give feedback on the right element. What do you think on Audi? A bit of an unknown quantity. It would not surprise me if Audi are terrible.
Yeah, I'm generally expect them to be probably the team who blow up the most motors this year, more so than Honda.
I don't think you can go into Formula One and not expect it to be a multi-year project, and therefore your first year is you're going to blow up the engine.
Yeah. A whole brand new engine, the whole thing. They've never built an F1 engine, but the thing is, F1 as a company bent over backwards to get Audi in. So Audi kind of need to. I suspect they've contracted him for a long time.
Yeah.
Being how much F1 had to give up for him, so they need to hit the ground running and they need to get going.
But you say that
Hulkenberg is a great driver though for a development team like this.
You say that the wider group, including Volkswagen, Audi, Porsche, they pulled out of WEC. I think a little bit throwing toys out the pram because of BAP, because they stayed in IMSA.
Because Ferrari are winning all the time.
Yeah, but they also lost $1 billion, which is there's a lot of stuff going on in wider motorsport. $1 billion is actually nothing now, given Stellantis have written off $26 billion because they moved too fast to EV. So there's so much shake-up is what I'm trying to say in terms of like manufacturers that actually Formula One is a relatively small part of that, especially with cost caps and things like that. So let's see what goes, because the point I was going to make is that, and I know Audi have been sponsoring, for example, Sky Sports coverage, and that kind of blurs the lines because Sky Sports coverage also includes Sky Sports News. So they're clearly embedded. I don't think the F1 viewing community is ready to have Audi come in and be terrible. So it'll be interesting because in sports franchises that doesn't happen.
No. In sports franchises, you take over a team, but it's not
mechanically. Yeah,
and that's a whole completely different ball game.
Yeah, it feels like we're kind of slating everyone at the moment. But Bortoleto, were you a bit surprised Bortoleto stayed, or he's rated highly?
He did all right.
Yeah.
I thought as a rookie year, but he was the F2 champion.
Yeah,
I thought he had a good season.
I think
there's a couple of bits where he dropped it. Obviously, at the season opener last year, a couple of other mistakes here and there. But I thought he had the upper hand over Hulkenberg throughout the whole season. Hulkenberg had a good few standout races, but as an average general thing, I think Gabrietto had a better season.
I think at the beginning of the season, people think, "Oh, maybe Audi will go for Vettel and whatever." I think this shows that Audi were like, "We want to minimise variables here,
minimise change.
Yeah, minimise.
Have someone who had last year's car, knows the team, stuff like
that." Okay, we're going to go next to Cadillac, where Sergio Perez is back. I am surprised because I feel like Sergio Perez, I'm not laying fingers at anyone in particular, but I feel like he was essentially bullied in Formula One. Like, he became a meme. Like, he was a free hit for anyone in the press.
He came out as a scapegoat.
Scapegoat. Strange stuff did happen at Red Bull in terms of the car performance. And I thought it was pretty sad to watch, like, how he was treated. Yeah. And
the last season of him in Red Bull was not a good watch.
I would say at times it was disgraceful, like between what happened at Red Bull, but also the way he was treated in the press and whatnot. So I'm very interested to see him back. I thought he would go straight into sports car racing,
which he didn't. He had a year out.
Yeah, and he's straight back now with Cadillac with a massive point to prove. And he's done this before. I remember Sergio Perez when he was at McLaren early on in his career.
When they were Chrome.
Vodafone. I can't remember, but maybe they'd just gone orange. I can't remember. But anyway, he was scapegoated there, and he had to find his way back at Force India. He was also out at Force India before he won in Bahrain. So he's gone through this like redemption thing. So when you think about it, he is actually this guy that digs deep and has redemption thing. So, and obviously Mexico is a huge market. So we will see if he's still got that fight. But also, maybe he will crack as well.
Who knows? Is he going to be able to shed the label of a number 2 driver in a team of, essentially, number 2 drivers?
Yeah. Well, if you've got 2 number 2 drivers, all right. But yeah, 281 Grand Prix entered is unbelievable. Like, that is just unbelievable experience from Sergio Perez.
And it's what Cadillac need.
Yeah. And next to him, Valtteri Bottas. Again, I thought Bottas was going to be on the way out when he became reserve driver at Mercedes. I felt like that was a step backwards. I thought the same thing about Zhou Guanyu when he became reserve. But he's back as well. I just don't know which way this is going to go. They've got the Ferrari engine. They are a brand new team, unlike Audi, which might have some benefits because they've been able to solely concentrate on the season.
I think, for me personally, Cadillac are probably actually going to outdo the season. That's my view.
Well, that's a big claim.
And I think that's purely because of the engine. I think the Audi motor is going to be like a grenade. It's literally just going to, they pull the pin, it might blow up, it might not.
They won't even need Fernando Alonso to rev it out.
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll see how Cadillac do. We're going to just a reminder, if you're enjoying it, make sure you hit the subscribe button. Sam's channel in the description as well. Now we actually get to Ferrari. We ask it every year, is this Ferrari's year?
It feels like this is their best chance of being their year.
Because there's so much chaos.
So much chaos. They seem to have a well thought out car. I generally don't believe they're going to run that fancy flippy wing. I don't think they'll run that. But they've got the turbo issue sorted out. So they've got the smaller turbo, so it spools up faster. Like, essentially, they're saying, well, they're not, but other teams are saying 10th place for them is like a pole.
Yeah, because they're going to. And then they can run different trim in qualifying.
Exactly. The car looks pretty good. It's not the fastest on race pace, but it's really not far off. They got ingenious little things like a little exhaust wing, which means the way you did that is by moving the gearbox forward, so it gave them more room, which meant the rear drive shafts swept backwards, which should in theory give them a bit more traction and a bit more anti-dive.
So they've been thinking about 26 for a long time.
Yes,
maybe reflected in pain in 25, but
the funny thing is, sorry to distract it, they brought up the issue about race starts a year ago to everyone in F1, and they all ignored it. Hence why they've gone round and designed the turbo, how they've chosen to design it. I think it'd be outrageous if Formula One changed the starting procedure to help the other teams who are saying it's going to be unsafe.
Yeah.
Considering Ferrari told everyone a year ago this is going to be the issue, no one listened. They thought, right, we'll design around it. We'll get around
I almost feel like if it was any other team, it would have been changed already. But you have to remember, Ferrari has a special relationship with Formula One. They get paid more than any other team. They get literally a bonus for just being Ferrari.
They were the highest paid team last season.
Yeah, and so I feel like growing up, I always knew this, but like now, maybe people. It's helpful to remind it. Like Ferrari just get paid extra for being Ferrari. Like that is, it doesn't happen in like Manchester United get paid more or something.
No, they get more injury time.
Yeah. So yeah, I think that might be a reason that actually they kind of like it's good. It would be great for Formula One if Ferrari win. Yeah. So
but if Ferrari win, who's going to be the one who wins?
Yeah, so Charles Leclerc, Lewis Hamilton. When we talked about Lewis Hamilton going to Ferrari, I remember I said I think this could be a terrible fit culturally, etc. And actually, he might not do more than one season. It seems to me that actually Lewis Hamilton has regrouped, and Lewis Hamilton has fought some kind of battle in Ferrari to get them to modernise.
Well, he's got his new engineer as well. My personal opinion is I think Lewis will probably get their first race win, but Charles will probably.
Well, given you say qualifying's not as important, and we think Charles has a qualifying edge over Lewis, maybe coming into the racing, actually that's neutralised a little bit of Charles' advantage.
But yeah, I think Lewis will probably get Ferrari's first win of the season. I think Charles will probably be the overall better performing driver out of the two.
And 105 wins for Lewis Hamilton in Formula One, which is absolutely insane. That's 5 seasons winning back to back. Okay, now we go to Haas. Ocon and Behrman. Again, Ferrari engine. Haas have...
Ferrari engine, but sponsored by Toyota.
Yeah. It makes no sense to me how Haas sometimes have been able to do so well, given that we assume that they really don't... They run very much under the radar. Yeah. Maybe it's because the livery's been the same for so long or something, I don't know.
It just blends in.
Just kind of blends in. Oh, it's the Haas. It's the Haas. Is there any chance this could be a Brawn moment for Haas?
No, I don't think so. I think they're going to be the best of the midfield. Yeah. Percy. And I think Ollie will probably be the driver who's the better one out of the two. Shown by last year. If I'm completely honest here, Ollie had an amazing season last year compared to Esteban. Yeah. So, but I think they're going to be 5th in the championship. Obviously, you got the big 4. Mercedes, Red Bull, McLaren, Ferrari.
Wow, that's high, yeah.
So I reckon Haas are going to be 5th. The car looked pretty sorted. Reliable with the Ferrari engine, so they've got the smaller turbo for the starts and stuff like that. But I think there will be crashes, obviously with not a rookie anymore, but still a very inexperienced driver. Ocon seems to get involved in something. Be on the verge of chucking it off. Yeah. I generally think they're going to be top 5th place team this season.
Okay, so and you think Behrman's going to outdo Ocon?
I think he will. I think Behrman had a great season last year. Really stepped up, really showed how good he's going.
Yeah. I think also if the Ferrari engine is great, he'll be saying, I really want to get in that Ferrari for the next few years.
I still think he's going to be Lewis's replacement. Yeah. I generally believe it.
Rumours today I heard that Lewis has some kind of unilateral option to extend, which would be interesting. I think they really bent over backwards to get him in. Right, going to McLaren now. Lando Norris, who I saw actually at the Autosport Awards when I was nominated. Yeah. Looking bulked up.
Yeah, and now they're all cut down. Yeah. Massively.
So, let's be honest. He doesn't feel like a reigning champion to me, like head and shoulders above the rest. Like he's got that swagger, which is interesting. But in the McLaren, should we be clearly saying that Lando is the obvious favourite?
I mean, I don't want to feel like I'm giving him stick. Like he got a lot of stick. People saying he's the most unworthy champion of recent times and stuff like that. He's obviously a worthy champion. Yes, he had a better end of the season than Oscar. Well, overall, he had a better season. Obviously, he won the championship. But he doesn't. Yeah, you're right. He doesn't have like the aura of a world champion like Max did or Lewis did. Yeah. I mean, we never really got a chance to see Nico's aura of a.
Arguably, that's great aura because he did just mic drop. Yeah.
just never ended it.
I think the thing that stands up here on the stats page on the side here is that 152 Grand Prix entered, 44 podiums. Like he's podium won every 3 races. And at times of his career early on, McLaren wasn't that good. Obviously now it's
when
been
they were
dominant.
Honda. Was it?
Renault,
No,
I think it was Renault. Yeah,
Yeah, with Danny.
but yeah, I mean, I feel like Lando deserves to be the favorite. Actually, like for anyone who's putting a favorite, he deserves that. What will be interesting is if for whatever reason Oscar Piastri starts outperforming Lando, if this car is not actually the top car, that will be interesting. That will pose some very awkward questions about some stuff that happened in 2025.
Yeah, I mean, Oscar did outperform him for the first half of the season. I know the season's a long season; it's not just the first half. But
Yeah,
it's going to be close between them. I think they're the most evenly matched pairing on the grid.
yeah. I think
that's comfortable to say.
I think it's going to be exciting to watch them dicing as well. Okay, now we go to Mercedes. Now, a lot of people, I think bookies are saying that George Russell is the favourite.
That's my
28 years
guess.
old, so really in prime years now. He had his time at Williams. He would have learned so much from Lewis Hamilton, beating Lewis Hamilton, and now being like in this team leader role with Kimi, where I feel like George can pull rank at the moment. So a clear like number one driver. If the Mercedes, so let's talk about compression ratio on. We've got George Russell's car here. So Mercedes doing some espionage, basically, like getting the rules clarified at their advantage. Everyone knows. Interestingly, everyone knows that the car is basically illegal. There's just no way to test it in the current regulations. That's going to change. I think it's been ratified now, either June or August. I can't remember.
But even then, it's when you read through it, they're still only going to test it at like a low
130
temperature.
degrees.
Yeah, which obviously any engine, let alone a Formula 1 engine, is going to be way higher than.
Yeah, I think it depends if you exhaust or where you're doing it, but essentially, like, there's going to be some changing to the testing methodology. I think they're getting credit for the way that they force that clarification. A little bit sneaky. I think other teams might think that's not really in the spirit of Formula One doing it by the rule book that way, as opposed to what Ferrari did. But we will see. There's going to be a change. What does that mean? Is a change happening? Because Formula One, from a sporting perspective, feel like the Mercedes cars are going to be too powerful. So Toto Wolff is playing it down. Other teams not playing it down. That's a lot of pre-season stuff. We will find out almost as soon as this video goes live. Probably will be FP1, and we will see.
Is it going to be a complete repeat of 2014?
Yeah,
where Mercedes know they got the best car
and they've designed
got
around
the best
it.
engine, and they just dial it all down. So they're winning comfortably, but not too comfortably.
Or is it going to be a dog of a car like Mercedes have also produced? They've been everywhere. So we will see. And then Kimi Antonelli, I think I'm just excited to see him again racing in Formula One. I think he's going to ignore team orders. I think he's going to do stupid stuff. I think he's going to do amazing stuff. Yeah.
I think it's going to be his last season at Mercedes.
Where's he going to go?
Honestly, I don't know, but
is that culturally?
I think no. I think he's actually going to be fast enough to really challenge George and wants a proper shot at it.
Yeah.
But I think George is going to have himself cemented as the number one driver. Kimi's going to have to move.
I think George isn't going to allow a situation like happened at McLaren. George is going to in my opinion, pull rank a lot earlier and say, if I'm not the number one driver, almost hold the team hostage to it, basically. Yeah. We will see. Okay, so then we go to the Racing Bulls. Liam Lawson started last season in the Red Bull, now in the Racing Bulls.
Looks better in the Racing Bull.
Yeah, massive point to prove. Has almost gone through so much hardship or whatever turmoil in his career that he's well placed for this kind of like chaos. I think. So, yeah, I think for me, Liam Lawson could be a bit of a surprise package in this car.
Yeah, what compared to the new rookie Lindblad?
Yeah,
I think Lindblad's really going to struggle. I mean, obviously being a rookie coming in with a whole new rule set.
Yeah,
it's massively different. I think
I left for a puncture here.
I think Lindblad's really going to struggle in F1 in general this season. It's such a huge rule set change. There's no prior car he can sit in and test it and have an idea what the motor does or aero does. He's just going by sim.
Well, yeah, let's remember Hajar binned it formation lap Melbourne last year, and
But
nearly got spat out of the machine. I
Yeah.
think people had to pull back, and then he has come through it, and now he's in the Red Bull.
it is, but I just think this. I mean, when Hadjar was a rookie last year, so we'll say 3 years, I think it is. He could have driven the 2021 Red Bull, which would have had roughly the same sort of motor, the same sort of aero. This is all so completely different.
And I think still entering a team in turmoil. I think Red Bull is still a team in turmoil.
Both of
them. Well, I think in the wide, I think as we'll go to show Max here, but I think the Red Bull pyramid in Formula 1 is so top heavy. Max is such an outsized part of it. It doesn't to me feel like a healthy ecosystem. His teammate Liam Lawson has been treated very badly. Isaac Hadjar, who's in the Red Bull, has been treated very badly. So, Christian Horner is now on manoeuvres. Like he's got a point to prove against Red Bull. There might be briefings there. We don't know. So, yeah, I mean, well, let's go to Max Verstappen now. Can he do it?
Yeah, I reckon it's going to be between him and George, personally. It's very reliant. I know, obviously, once again, another brand new engine manufacturer's in. Even though essentially it's the same team who built the last few Hondas. What Ford are bringing to the table? Not a lot.
Baggage
And battery.
Getting in the way, frankly. Honestly, getting in the way. This is not how Red Bull have operated before. Red Bull have called the shots on their engine manufacturers. Red Bull have been out there with
Renault,
Honda.
can you remember all the arguments?
Yeah, with Cyril and I think Ford are not going to be beaten down like Red Bull have done in the past. And if culturally, and this might be a thing with Christian Horner or whatever, or Newey, if culturally it was like, let's bear down on the engine manufacturer and get them to compromise, get them to fund things a different way. I think, cost cap and
but
things.
Ford are only really supplying the electrics, like the battery sort of components.
But Ford are going to want to claim the victories and stand and disassociate themselves from the failures. And I just think that's going to be really culturally more interesting than we think.
Yeah.
And also with Newey leaving, we spoke about Newey going to Aston Martin. I think an interesting question that I've been speaking with a few people about off camera is that has Adrian Newey actually had a great team with him for a long time? But been getting
the team have carried him.
He's been getting all the credit, and his methods have become increasingly, let's be honest, outdated. Especially in a world where now you can use AI to like simulate so many different things and then go down this path. And he's kind of like more. He makes the decisions.
On the drawing board,
yeah, and look the way stuff is going at Aston Martin. It looks to be a complete pig's ear, which is also why, going back to this video, I think that he cannot be the person who saves that project, in my opinion. Will we actually see that Red Bull are the master car designers and they have the talent?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, Adrian would have had, one of the better words, apprentices. Maybe they were the people essentially doing all the hard work.
Yeah.
We really don't know how much of a leave did Newey have? How much was he actually doing for Red Bull? So the car looks good. The motor looks okay. Max is obviously brilliant. It could be a really good season for him.
I'll just give you some insight there. When I went to the Autosport Awards, and so I was there in the award ceremony, and McLaren won Car of the Year, up against the 499P and some other stuff. Actually, Andrea Stella said, I want to get my whole team on stage. And that was Peter Promodoro and all those people. And you look at all these people and like, they're all people of a certain age and like, but that is stacked with talent. It's almost like McLaren wanted to say, we're not just one person. We are stacked with depth and like the MTC and like everything and the connection with the automotive business and whatnot. And maybe Red Bull are actually in a similar position. But they have the shining star of Max. If they can deliver this thing to Max, I think it could be a really exciting story of the season.
But also, sorry.
Yeah.
The car did not look good in Isaac's hands. It looked horrendous again.
Yeah, and
it just following the pattern of the cars always looking horrendous.
But I feel like I've come full circle on this because I criticise the team the way Perez was handled, etc. If you have a talent like Max, would it be irresponsible to do anything other than?
Yeah, and then I fully agree with you. Like Max is obviously such a massive talent. He knows how he likes his car. Max is always going to be one of the favourites to win. Give him a semi-decent car, he'll always be knocking around the door.
This is the other thing.
Why not design the car around Max?
This is the other thing that I don't think a lot of people talk about, because again, it kind of maybe is a bit awkward. You look at McLaren, you look at Mercedes, right, and other manufacturers, even technically Alpine. they sell road cars, right, to high net worth individuals, maybe, or to broadly. Winning constructors championship is very important for them.
So they want both cars
Yeah.
to do well.
I think winning the constructor championship is actually just kind of irrelevant for Red Bull, which is again where the Ford thing might come in and mess things up. For them, the way they do marketing, and they've always marketed on drivers and riders, is that they don't. So that so
they market the individual person.
Yeah, so we will see, because again they've given Hadjar this opportunity. It's not they're giving drivers opportunities, and maybe they'll be the next Max one day. Will
A
come through.
silly number of drivers on the grid are somehow affiliated with Red Bull.
Yeah,
either through junior programs, race for them once or twice.
Yeah, because they Red Bull understand from a marketing perspective that people like drivers and riders and personalities. That's what we're affiliated with. So yeah, we think Hadjar maybe could struggle a little bit. It's a bit of a poison chalice. And then going to Carlos Sainz in the Williams. Well, what do we say about Williams? Because
the big, heavy, late Williams.
Because I think everyone has given Williams a lot of slack, saying, it's all about, Val's coming in and it's about working to 26.
Which I think Val's has done a great job, but there should be no giving.
You can't miss tests and stuff like that.
You can't. You can understand it in the first. When they missed it because they were still on Google spreadsheets or whatever they're on. You can kind of not understand it, but you can forgive that.
Yeah.
There was no excuse in this.
I just wonder if it means that actually it's all a bit of marketing spin. We know people that work at Williams. We know anecdotally that things have improved massively in the ways we work, etc. But unfortunately, Formula 1 is a competitive, really
Did
competitive.
you say why they didn't make Barcelona?
The rumours about the safety and the way
crash testing.
Okay. But it doesn't matter. Maybe there's just something endemic in Williams. Like, this was a pretty sickly operation. It didn't do well transitioning, I think, into new ownership. And Claire Williams, I think she'll admit that she was a bit out of depth at times running the team. So I just wonder, again, will Williams ultimately be a casualty or not? I don't know. Williams have also done so much in Formula 1 history, but they've spun off a lot of that to service other teams and championships. I think a lot of the talent has also gone with that.
But end of last season, Carlos really stepped up. Start of last season, Alex was the best one of the best drivers of the first half. Carlos was one of the best drivers of the second half. So if they get the car right, both their drivers are plenty good enough to be there.
Yeah.
But it's overweight. It's missed some testing. I know they put it on their digital virtual track or whatever it's called. I can't remember what it's called. I think they're really going to struggle until they can get their car reportedly down to the sort of race rate. I think they're really going to struggle. Yeah.
So there we go. That's a Formula Fan TV preview. I'll be streaming, I think, every session of Australia. We'll probably try do some streams, maybe on Formula Fan TV as well. So let us know what you think in the comments, and we're going to do this every race. So we'll see you there.